This is so intense that I can't even show it to you in the first 6 seconds. I'm not even allowed to talk about it because otherwise all my videos will get banned. And that's exactly why I'm showing it to you up here. The next thing is, Carsten Lindemann is now publicly admitting that this coalition has failed, and they probably won't be able to find any common ground anymore. And Friedrich Merz is fighting a losing battle in the EU. Germany is going downhill in politics and also, well, in its mindset. And let me ask you, what would have happened if someone from the AfD had made such a statement? I can tell you years later it would still be held against that person. If you'd like to support this channel, please like and subscribe. And we're getting into today's topics, and I really have to say it's so disgusting I could throw up.
The goal of the federal government is to reach a result before the summer break.
At the same time, Lindemann is once again accusing the SPD of breaking the coalition agreement. And because the CDU is serious, they have once again shown what they think about governing with the SPD. You've probably already heard about it in the past few days. Yes, among other things, it was about the gigantic deportation offensive, which, by the way, has to do with the post that I just showed you, or the one I showed you earlier, den ich euch vorhin eingeblendet hatte. Has something to do with it. I brought something about that later. This thing is so explosive, I really have to be careful that this video doesn't get restricted and then my channel gets banned. Not that I said that. I just want to make a brief statement beforehand. The coalition partners can no longer agree. The 30-point pension plan will not go through like this. The young people are fed up with it and are now coming out all guns blazing. By now they've had it up to here completely and want a political shift, which they have shown in Europe. The motion regarding the deportation waves, yes, by the way, that was also co-authored by the AfD, which they then voted on, and Manfred Weber basked in the praise for it. And the Security Council said yesterday that everything concerning the AfD will now only be discussed behind closed doors.
Spahn has called on the SPD to pledge itself to the agreed reforms.
But at the same time, the SPD is blocking again, so the 8-hour workday will definitely not be touched. There will be no reforms there. They'd rather let the coalition break up. They already knew that a few days ago, but they didn't say anything. And as a result, it quickly became clear again in the European Parliament, yes, dear SPD, you can do it that way. But since no foreign investors are coming anymore and want to build buildings here, I mean here in Germany, and since they're more interested in buying up all the big corporations here, breaking them up and rebuilding them in China, has the SPD and the CDU now decided that we should take a completely different approach? And these approaches, yes, and I really have to say, I already showed it to you. Well, it was just that a 23-year-old said we should. Well, they did that with the Jews before, so you could do the same with the Muslims. And I just have to say, hey, imagine if someone from the AfD had said something like that. Done? Then there would be mass demonstrations out there all over Germany, and they would burn down the party headquarters. What's going on with the CDU now? Why? Oh, there was a minor criminal complaint, by the way. He said even more. I'll tell you about that in a moment. That's all it's for now. It's just being used to attack the SPD because people are realizing, and leading economists here in Germany are saying, that with the SPD there will be no more investments and the country is heading for disaster. Socialism is dead in Germany, only many parties haven't realized it yet.
Well, that's of course something that shakes and affects the SPD in its own sphere. And the whole thing is something that has come up again in recent months, even though they actually agreed on this working hours reform in the coalition agreement over a year ago.
And I'll put it simply, this is actually the video that was supposed to come out last night, but I think I'm allowed to take a vacation now and then, so that's why. But I absolutely have to tell you about it today. You still remember Villa Borsig and those other debates where it was also about mass strikes, where I told you no, it didn't go down so quietly? I'll tell you now what happened, and I actually heard it firsthand yesterday. The unions say the 8-hour workday stays, the SPD says no, we're not moving away from that, and the CDU says fine, then this coalition is over. And all of this is already known. That's why the Chancellor made it very clear, no, we'll keep this under wraps. No one out there is allowed to find out about this in any way. The Chancellor is away in Versailles and the whole mess is being blabbed about. Among other things, also about the 23-year-old Muslim. Well, we've long since moved past that time, but you see it once again. The real former National Socialists are usually found more in the CDU and the left. One gives the Nazi salute, the other talks about mass killings here in Germany. And I just wonder, like, hey, haven't we moved past that time while the big players are now clearly talking about breaking up the coalition? And yeah, Spahn is bringing up the oaths again. Where we then clearly say, hey, as political observers, we just think, yeah, so what about pensions now?
The federal government's pension commission agreed overnight on a list of about 30 recommendations. This was confirmed by the office of SPD commission member Annika Kloos. Accordingly, pensions remain controversial. There are supposed to be majorities for the individual recommendations.
A really tough situation. So there are majorities for individual points, but not for the offsetting the costs. There are majorities to restrict citizens. Yes, that's what they agreed on. But the Bundesrat will not go along with that. He has already said that, or at least hinted at it. I already know about many points, but I'm not allowed to say them yet. I have no desire to have customs officers at my door again, or maybe a warning from the authorities because I'm leaking things that were told to me in confidence. No, I promised, and that's that. Period. Things told to me in confidence. No, I promised, and that's that. I can tell you this much. When it comes to things that would restrict citizens, there are majorities in favor of it. However, when it comes to offsetting the costs, meaning saving within their own budget, no. They couldn't agree on that. And at the same time, the Bundesrat will say, or is going to say, are you all out of your minds? If this goes through, we've lost every election. And not just now, but in the coming years as well. I'll show you the same one again soon. If that goes through across the board, then we might as well hand over the golden keys to every city here in Germany to the AfD by now. Because the only election campaign they'd still have to run is, with us, pensions are secure and you know exactly that our voter base would completely disappear. And you know who votes for the SPD and also the CDU.
Absolutely an issue, but I can only confirm that in front of the camera. None of the security chiefs here want to go too far publicly. There is concern that they might do a disservice to their own campaigners in the East if they talk here about exclusion and banning a party. What we have now is music, yes?
Also, even yesterday at the former ministers' conference, they don't even want to comment on the AfD in the hallways anymore, let alone record anything officially. They prefer to do it in internal committees where everything is absolutely secure. And now they're supposed to initiate reforms. No, they're supposed to initiate reforms with the SPD that will ruin the election campaign everywhere. And you seriously believe that the reforms will come back next week? And I'd like to end this video with a quote. When I'm at the top, I'll deport them all. Actually, I'd rather have them all, I can't say the word, let's say, have them killed. Just like back then, for example, the Jewish people. End of quote. I didn't read out a few things. That was said by a CDU member. CDU member, 23 years old, and when asked if that's really okay, the answer was, I can do that. I don't give a damn. I do what I want. And that's exactly what the CDU doesn't do anymore. They don't do what they want anymore. The only ones who do what they want here are the SPD. A bid to ban the party, even after such escalations, is difficult here in Germany because the friendly face is National Socialist. Or on the other hand, National Socialism is a mere speck in our history. Of course, it is overshadowed by the fact that people from the CDU publicly express themselves here that they, well, you know, once again, they want to go back to 43, 44, only this time with different ethnic groups. I'll tell you something, yes, everyone in Germany should actually know about this. But hey, it's the World Cup. Hardly anyone will care.